Okay, welcome to week 5. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great, welcome to all 10 of you today. So a couple of announcements before we move on. Make sure you create your mLab account. I said that in the pre-class to-dos. We'll be using that today. So if you go to the announcements, you'll see the pre-class to-dos where it says create a free account at mlab.com. Yeah. Well, see, what happens is anytime you see my pre-class to-dos, those were automated. So I created this post the week before to be posted at 4:30. Yeah. Let me see. What else do I want to say? Has any of you experienced, like, hold on, let me go to my I forgot to mention this last class, but I had it in my notes. Let me bring that up in week 4. It would seem like port 3000 is already in use, but there's no way to hang it up. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I experienced that a couple times and I found a solution. So for example here, when I say npm start, it'll give me this error message, port 3000 is already in use, but I already shut down all my other DOS command prompts and other things. So the solution, as I found out, was through here, this command here. So netstat-ano pipe find string :3000, and then it'll give you this. It'll output a list of different processes, and you just have to look for this number at the end, and this is what you're gonna kill. So then your next command is tskill and then that number, and then everything's fine. npm start, and it's good to go. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I've experienced that a couple times. That was my solution. Just sharing it so that you know it's here. Okay, and this picture I got from my GitHub, my week 4 here. In case you need it, it's under this one here at the bottom. Okay, any questions or comments before I move on? Yes, it's not so much installing, it's just creating an account, just like you would create an account in Yahoo or Gmail or something. Okay, so this is what we are going to do today. So for the first few minutes, I'm going to do you guys a favor, and I'm going to create an Express app from start to finish using the portfolio template that I tried to incorporate last time but wasn't successful yet. So this will help you for your assignment part 1 if you choose to do your portfolio, as well as just a good summary of where we're at up to this point. I know some people like to have things in bullet points, like step 1, step 2, step 3. So I figure by doing this, you'll have that, because otherwise you'll be spending your time searching all the videos and rewinding and forwarding and saying, what was that part again? Okay, and then number 2, we're gonna just know a little bit about cloud hosting. We uploaded to Heroku last time as well as you're used to Azure. We'll just talk about the theoretical benefits of that. We're gonna get into MongoDB, which is basically mLab for you guys. And then we're going to touch on Mongoose, which is the interface between MongoDB and your Express app. Okay? So first, for the first several minutes, I'm basically recreating Lab 4 or Assignment 1, Part 1 for you. Stuff you already know, but again, for those of you who may just want the steps, like number 1, number 2, number 3, here it is. And this time, I'll also try to incorporate the portfolio template from getmdl.io, so that if you choose to use that for your assignment, at least you know how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to create a new Express app. Let's go in my command prompt. You don't have to do this on your computer. You could just watch because you already know how to do this. Or if you want to follow along, that's good too. Where am I going? CD node. So today I'm going to say Express. So here's step 1, Express -E. And here's something I learned within the past week. So last week someone said, hey, Albert, did you know that if you say --git in your express command, it will actually create for you a .git ignore file. So let me show you that. So let me just finish this command. So I'm going to call it lesson 5e. So it creates all of that. Let's look at that more closely. So let's get in there. So dir, where's my git? There it is, git ignore. Let's look at it. Oh, look at that. So hold on. Starting from here. So it won't git commit any of these logs, any of these PIDs, right? Because all we've been using was node modules, which is right here. So it's not going to commit node modules. But it has some other things as well, including this .env, which we'll be using today. So it's not going to include that. So that's good to know. All right, step 2, I already did step 2. Step 3, npm install. Let's do that. npm start. We should have a nice website. Great, working. All right. Next up is to create your roots and views. So now I'm going to actually create some roots and views. Hold on. Now I'm debating whether or not you should do this too, because what I'm about to do is going to continue. Yes, please follow along with me in your computers because we're going to create something new. And we're going to use this project for the next couple of weeks. So do this first column on your own computer. I'll give you a minute to do that. Oh, question, yeah. Yeah, I'll come to your computer. Yeah. Yeah, just use, yeah. I'm trying to do it so that you practice problem. Where were you at the time? You know what you said, express minus space, it should be still should create lots of files. Oh yeah. Okay, with space. It's a CD lesson file. Should be lesson file. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Everything, everyone's fine. So you're Bradley. You're right. Yeah. What's up?
So having trouble figuring out how to start a new file. All I know is that I missed so much shares for the last 2 weeks.
Sure.
And I only read the PowerPoint slides. So
What this command prompt? What do you have a normal folder where you put in your previous lessons for this class?
I have this folder, yes.
In there, I'm gonna say, can I just type something? I just want to see if you have. Can you type in the word express? I just want to see if it recognizes express. You say npm minus e. We have at least that. Yeah. npm express.
Use colognes or anything?
I don't.
It's just makes sense.
Okay.
So, what are we doing?
Okay, so then, does express work now? Yeah. Okay, so we can say express. So first command there, number one, express minus e, space minus minus e, less than 5. Yes. Enter. It creates this whole website for you. So now do number 2, cd less than 5. Okay, we're back. Everyone's on board. Everyone's at the same spot. Yeah, Luke. Number 5 is just up to you if you want to use nodemon or not. Like you can keep on using node or npm start or nodemon, whatever you want. It's just there to npm I to yes, Brad. Just npm I to install everything. Okay, all right. So this is where I'm going to depart from the column here. So we're going to create some roots and views. We're going to create a root called /games, and we're going to start from there. So let's yeah. Step 5, just step 5 isn't really a step. I just put that in brackets just for your own personal knowledge. If you choose to use nodemon to run your app, you can. You could ignore step 5. You could just say npm start with step 4. That's fine. So for example, Brad, if you say npm start. Okay, so now it's running. So if you open up a browser and say localhost 3000. Host 3000. Yeah, put a colon between. Yeah, and you should get it working for you. See there, that's your new website. Now we're going to tweak that. Okay. Okay, so let's create this roots in our index.js file. So let me open that folder. Open the folder. Oops. Open the folder. Where did I put it? Node. Lesson 5e. Okay, so here we are. Let's go into our roots, index.js. Great. So let's create a new root on here. So we're going to go do number 6. 6 is router.get, and we're going to do /games. Okay. Now this is under your new one that you just created, Brad. Just look under your. If you look under your roots folder. Yeah, see, look at my screen. See, there's a roots folder and then an index.js folder. Yes. When you said express minus e, all that, you have it. Was that Koopa? Zoom in? Oh, sorry. Yeah, please. Yeah, keep on reminding me to zoom in because I always forget. Okay, so we're going to go to /games. So if a person goes there, we'll just do the same thing here. Direct response, res.render, and we'll put a games page. We still have yet to make that games page. Title, we'll say all games. Okay, great. So if I run it now, obviously it's not going to work. Let's try it. So this is. Oh wait, hold on. I have yet to. I want to use the nodemon. Let me get out of this one. Use my terminal within here. Let me use nodemon. Okay. So let's see if it's still working. Still working. If I go to /games, it should not work, but at least it kind of looks it up for you. It says I tried to look it up in the view folder, games.egs, but it's not there. So let's create one under the views folder. Again, this is stuff you already know. So games.ejs, and I'll just copy the contents from index.ejs into games.ejs for now. There we go. So now it should work. Let's try it out. refresh. There we go. All games under the /games. Great. What else are we doing here? This time we're going to split it up into controllers. So again, you know this. So step 8, create controllers, game controller.js. So in the root folder here, I'll say controllers. There it is. In there, I'll say a new one called game controllers.js. Okay, and then I'm just going to split that off as normal. So in my index.js file, let's get rid of this guy here. We're going to cut this out, this function out, and we're going to say games controller dot get games. Now we still have yet to make get games, and we still have yet to import those. So let's do that now. Const games controller equals require controllers field game controller. Then under the actual games controller.js, that's where we put in our stuff, our exports dot games equals, and then paste in what I just copied previously. I think that is, I'm missing something. Please tell me. I don't know. I think that's it. Let's try it out. Let's just try it out for the games. Let's see. Games, are you still working, games? You should be working. Yes, you are. Let's just quickly do the same thing for the index as well. So the index still has this one. Let's take that out. Call it games controller home, maybe. Home, yeah, and that's home equals paste. That should work. Let's see if that still works. Yes, and very good. Everyone with me so far, hopefully. Again, I'm recording, so you can see all the different steps I'm doing here. What did I say here in step 10? All right, if I'm using a custom style sheet. Let's go on to the last column here, create partials. So this is where we split off our header and footer so that they're reusable. So I'll just quickly do that. So in my views, partials, in my partials, put in a header, put in a footer. Okay, and then we'll just cut and paste our header and footer information from our previous stuff. So up my index EJS and cut off from my dot type first tag all the way to my body, cut that off. My header, save. Footer, it'll be from the body tag to the HTML tag, cut that off. Here, save. And finally, inside index, we're going to include that. And we're going to do the same thing for the footer. Index.ejs is fixed. I'm going to do the same thing for games.ejs real quick. So let's eliminate doc type to body, paste in my include, eliminate the body and HTML, the ending, and then put in the footer. Okay, this should be working. Let's just test that out, see if it's still working. 3000, yes. Games, yes. And just for kicks, let's put in the header a quick nav. So nav ul list. I want 2 list items, and inside that I want an anchor tag tab. There you go. So the first one will go to home. Second one will go to games. Let's see if that is now working. Refresh. There it is. I see my links. Let's click on games. And it's working, right? So that was basically your lab 4. Done in several minutes. Okay. What is new? Let's talk about what's new. So we're going to continue with that project, okay? Oh, Sean, you're here. I'm going to answer your question, Sean. Remind me. Okay. So last week we uploaded to Heroku, which is a cloud-based platform. And oops, hold on. Let me just get something in my second monitor. So I have my little. Okay. All right. So why the cloud? Basically, there's three reasons. Number one, you have faster performance. Number two, you have greater scalability. And number three, it's pay per use. So it's actually cheaper. So for example, if you take this example, Olympics happens every so often. And the question is, how many servers do you think you would need in a traditional hosting environment to host a website for the Olympics? And so you can imagine all the thousands of people that are visiting the websites. And the question I have is not so much how many servers, but how is cloud hosting different from traditional hosting platforms like DreamHost? Anyone know? So you've uploaded to Heroku, you've uploaded to Azure. Those are kind of different than the typical traditional hosting companies you would normally sign up for. Okay, so for a normal hosting company, if you've ever done that, you pick a monthly plan. Every month you pay like $10, $20, $30, whatever it is. And that gives you either more storage, more memory, more bandwidth, more servers, right? But the bad side is if you go over your storage or if you go over your bandwidth, it's like your cell phone. They charge you lots of money, right? And that's a problem because let's say you can't anticipate when someone's gonna, there's an onslaught of demand and then you pay so much money. So you have two choices. You're gonna either pay so much money as an overcharge, or what's the other alternative? The other alternative is you're gonna pay even more, like $50 a month, $100 a month, just to potentially meet demand. But even then, you're not sure. That's very inefficient in terms of money, resources, right? So here's an example. Here is an example chart of a website, perhaps, that during the second quarter of the year, then you get a lot of users for your website. So what are you going to do? Are you going to buy enough servers to handle 1,000 people throughout the whole year? So you're paying like so much money just to potentially meet that demand? Solution. So that's a problem. Here's the solution: cloud-based servers. So cloud-based servers is totally different because it will detect when you have a demand spike. And if you do, it will spin up extra servers for you automatically. And so you pay per use. That is the advantage of Heroku, Azure, Google Cloud, and others. Okay? So again, the problem is you get demand spikes, you get a lot of users at a certain time of year, so you basically have to either rent enough equipment so that you can always meet that maximum, but if you do that, you'll pay so much money every month, which is expensive, when most of the time you don't need that many resources. So cloud hosting was designed to resolve these problems so that when a spike occurs, another server is spun up automatically to meet demand, and vice versa. So if there is low demand, those other servers that were turned on are now turned off. So again, it's just pay per use, which is nice. Here are a few cloud service companies. There aren't that many cloud hosting companies because it's very expensive to create data centers worldwide in order to meet those demand spikes. So you got the big players like Amazon with AWS, Microsoft with Azure, Google with Cloud, and Heroku. And Heroku's nice because you get 5 free apps that you can use. Also, just an FYI, I saw this one article. Called Heroku Alternatives, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. So this article kind of goes through the benefits of cloud hosting on each company. And it's just a nice FYI if you ever choose to. DigitalOcean is another one. All right, so let's talk about any questions so far. Any comments? Pretty simple, right? So right now, in your time here at Georgian, what databases have you worked with? Go. MySQL, what else?
SQL, Azure.
SQL Server? Yeah. Anything else? No. Okay. So there are problems with relational databases. And the first problem is scalability. So in a production environment, they're always constantly having capacity problems. As they get more and more data, they always have to pay more money to get more storage and configure things and that kind of thing. Another problem is when it comes to relational database is this whole topic of serialization, deserialization. Basically, you're translating data from one format in MySQL so that's usable in whatever language you're using at the time, right? But if you take a look at Node in JSON, and we talked about this before, JSON data is already a JavaScript object notation, so there's not much translating that has to go on. It's very usable almost instantaneously. Okay, so you're saving time and money in terms of efficiency of that serialization, deserialization of data. And the third problem with relational databases is flexibility. As you know, you've probably encountered this for one of your projects in previous courses. You create your relational database, and then you realize, oh, I need another field. And you go, oh, right? Because you have to create another field. You have to create the rules and all that. So it's not as flexible. This is why MongoDB and other NoSQL databases were invented. So the problem, again, is relational databases are taking way too long for websites like Amazon.com. So they need another solution. And NoSQL was the solution. When you're talking about NoSQL, you have to switch vocabulary. Okay, so in relational databases, you have tables. In NoSQL databases, you have collections. In relational databases, you have records. In NoSQL databases, you have documents. The document is essentially JSON. So when I first heard about NoSQL databases being a document database, I thought, what, was that Microsoft Word document? No, just think JSON. That's all it is. Okay. And in that collection, or table, if you will, not every document or JSON has to look the same. So unlike traditional databases where all records have to follow the same structure, you don't have to have that with MongoDB. And that's where the flexibility comes in. And that's where the speed comes in. So here's an example of, I keep on saying a record. Here's an example of a document that MongoLab creates for you. So number one, notice it's JSON. This is basically a restaurant object where data is being stored as key value pairs. Number two, notice the very first key value entry here. Underscore small I small d. This is automatically generated by MongoDB, and it creates this for you so you never have to worry about setting up a primary key for any of your databases. It's there automatically for you to use if you choose to use it, which is great. And just an FYI, the word Mongo actually came from the word humongous. It was created in 2007, and MongoDB is still the world's most popular NoSQL database today. MongoDB is schemaless, so the collections in it, or the tables, if you will, do not need to be defined before they can be used. So two documents in the same collection can have a different number of fields inserted into it. And unlike relational database, a collection can automatically be created when you insert the first document. Kind of neat. And each document can have, again, different formats that evolves over time without requiring it to modify the document structure first. That's the flexibility of it. In terms of master-child relationships, so data relations, such as in traditional relational databases, in this format, it can be nested, which means you don't have table relationships anymore. You don't have foreign keys anymore. You don't have joins anymore. Right? So here's an example again for the restaurant. So here, under grades, you have a couple of things. Like compare that to a traditional relational database. How would you do that? It would be what? You'd have two separate tables with kind of joins, right? Here, JSON, you just pop it in. Okay. Again, this whole idea was designed for result in high performance and scalability, and it's perfect for cloud hosting solutions. because they can automatically scale on demand. FYI, whenever MongoDB stores documents in JSON, it's not actually JSON, it's actually BSON, which is basically binary JSON. It's actually faster because it is in binary format. Here we have 2 grades nested in the master. So no joins means it's faster performance. Now there is a trade-off. So the trade-off is this. If you do have lots of complex nested relationships, that becomes hard to manage. Typically, you don't want to do that with Mongo. Okay, so that's the trade-off. There's always a trade-off with something. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah, Nikita.
What about the case? So usually, in the MySQL setting on the, let's say, whenever you join tables.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. No. Well, there could be another record that kind of looks like this. Maybe it has an address and a borough and a cuisine, and maybe no grades, and maybe no name. Maybe no. It'll still count.
So let's say you maintain a table of restaurants.
Yes.
And they all like every single one has to have that as a grade, so that are like
yeah.
defined. So
yes.
You have to duplicate it every single time for every single restaurant. Instead of saying
yes.
like, hey, this grade corresponds to this and this grade corresponds to that.
Yes, so you'll have this kind of nested thing happening for every single restaurant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to be duplicated. Let's say
yes.
you have 2 restaurants that are in the same grade, like grade A.
Yeah.
And then you have a few restaurants that are grade B.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
Yep, that's going to be like that. That's the trade-off. So this is faster in terms of fetching the data.
Does that mean it's going to be file size-wise?
Yes, well, yes, it might be, well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. It would be bigger. Yes, I would agree. Well, hold on. See, now we're getting to how is something architected? How is a database architected? Because okay, so I don't know the answer to this. My question in my head as you asked that is the architecture of MySQL database in terms of size more efficient in spewing out your data than just a simple fetch from a JSON URL? That's the question I have.
This is pretty much a glorified text file.
Yes, that's all it is. A glorified text file. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah. Okay, so good question. Any other questions, comments? All right, so the question is that you're all asking is, yes, I love MongoDB. How do I get MongoDB? There are 3 ways. We're going to do number 2 in this class. You can install it locally, and I put a link here for you just for reference. And truth be told, this laptop that I'm working with is a new work laptop, and IT put restrictions on it that I cannot install anything I want on it anymore. So these new laptops that all the staff are getting is very restricted. So if I want Mongo locally, I have to go through IT, which takes weeks. So I've already requested it. Yeah, so I'm still waiting. So that's why we're going to do number 2, which is basically what professionals use anyway. But just as a reference, you would go to this website, click on Community Server, and download local. So you've all had Comp 1006, which is the PHP MySQL, where earlier on in that class, you probably downloaded a local version of MySQL so you could play with it in your DOS prompt or play with it in your MySQL workbench. And then what did you eventually do anyway for your assignments and projects near the end? You just use the DreamHost version, which is the web-based version of MySQL anyway. So same thing. We're just going to use the web one anyway, because that's what most people use. So this is where you need to create an account. So if you haven't already, go to mlab.com and sign up for a free account. We're going to use their free sandbox so that we can use their stuff. Again, this is just FYI. Had I installed a local installation of MongoDB, I would have taken you through such commands like db.users.insert1 and just playing with inserts and finds. They look like this. But the reality is, when you're working with Express apps, you never actually touch that. because you're using something else to interface with MongoDB, and we'll be learning that in a second. FYI, if you do install it locally, it comes with a GUI interface called Compass, which is similar to MySQL Workbench. Another thing that's cool to know is MongoDB is self-contained. So that means you could just copy and paste one directory into another directory and it'll still work. However, if you do install it locally, be aware, it does require you to actually create a directory called data in order for it to work. Okay. All right. So mLab, everyone's created an mLab account now, so I don't have to wait, so I can just move on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've already taken my email using, but I just can't think of it.
Think of one, and hopefully it'll get to this screen, and I'll show you in a second. So I'm going to log into mLab, and these are the steps to create a database. I've already created a few here. I'm going to create a new one. So for you, hopefully you'll see a screen like this that says MongoDB deployments with nothing there. Correct? Okay, great. So let's just go through my slides here. So I wrote down all the steps here in my slides. So under Mongo deployment, you're going to say create new, and then the plan type will be sandbox. So let's try that. Create new under, so this create new, I'm pressing it beside this one here, not this one beside it. So create new Mongo deployment. You can see all the different kinds of plans. We want the free one, which is this one right here, sandbox. So I click it, and this is where I have a critique of the user interface, because you think something opened up in the bottom, you think you'd want to click on that, but then as soon as you hover your mouse, it says, no, we tricked you. Please click on the continue button at the bottom right. Oh, okay. Continue. Now here, it says, so pick the closest one to us, which is US East, and then continue. So I'm going to click on this one right here, US East, and continue. So this is, I guess that's where the computer is for MongoDB. It's asking you to create a name for your database. Let's call it Retro. We're going to do something with retro games. I'm going to call it Retro 3 because I already have 2 retros, that is. So don't do Retro 3, just say Retro. Continue. And then you get the screen. Total price, free. We like it. We submit the order. And I think yeah. So now you should see at least one here now, right? You should see at least one. Called retro. No? Okay, let me walk around. Oh, okay. I didn't think. Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, so if you can't use retro, use something else. We're gonna use our little project that we're gonna work on is video games back in the 1980s. So classic PC games. So whatever you want to name it. Or maybe just comp 2060. Maybe your initials comp, I don't know, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Okay, so hopefully we're at this point where you can see the database that you created, right? So the next thing on my slide is click on your new deployment, click on add collection, name it, and create it. So click on Retro 3 for my case. You'll see a button here called add collection. Click on add collection. It'll give you a modal window, pop-up window asking you to name it. So I'll name it games. Now we have our collection called games. Let me see where we're at now. So everyone hopefully is at this point where you've created a games collection. Yes? Exactly. Let me walk around. Hold on. So maybe go into your email. Is that Gmail that you use? Yeah. Go into your Gmail, and there should be a new email for you to verify that. Okay, let me show you what we're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks. Here's my slide. Okay, so it's a retro PC game. So a couple of years ago, I came across this website called archive.org, which archives all the old books in the history of Canada, I think. But not only does it archive books, but it archives these cool games that I grew up with in the 1980s. And the cool thing about it is you can play them online, which is great. So like, check this out, Pac-Man, right? You click on this Pac-Man, and there's this thing here, and you click on begin, and it does its thing. And pretty soon, so it's an emulator. Press spacebar to start. I think it's starting. The music's probably going on. You can't hear it right now, but I'm controlling it. That's me. No. Okay, so I thought this would be a cool thing to do for our little project with the mLab for the next couple of weeks. And the reason why I think this is really good is because if you click on any game here, it actually allows you to share an embed tag, an iframe tag. So let me click on the game. What do I have to say here? It's taking forever. Refresh? Yeah, IT's on to me, yeah. Let me try Pac-Man again. I had success with Pac-Man. Come on, Pac-Man. Okay, so right here, this button right here, everyone needs to know about this button. The share this item, click it, and you can actually embed it. So if I take this, by the way, I noticed last semester, a COPA student in his work submission did not know what an iframe tag is. So maybe some of you may be in that boat. Just to demonstrate that everyone knows an iframe tag, what that does. So if you copy that, go into like create your own web page. So I'll just use CodePens, create new web page. Right. Let's have Emmet exclamation mark tab. Yes, it does. So in the body, I paste whatever I just copied, and bam, you get, bam, there it is, and you can play it. There it is. It's working. So imagine. So this is my vision for our project for the next couple of weeks. What if we created a website that lists all the different games in card format, similar to what we see here, and then we'll have a play button, and that play button will take us to another page where we can actually play the game using the embed iframed information. Cool. All right. So that's what we're gonna do. So I asked myself, what is the bare minimum information I want in my database? So I answered that with this. You might think I might have, the title, the publisher, maybe the URL of the image, as well as the embed information. But I noticed something, and check this out. So I'm gonna watch this. So if I right-click this image, copy image address. So I've copied the image address, so I can paste it whenever I want. Okay, great. Back to Pac-Man, and go back to the embed code. Check this out. I've noticed that for every single game, the iframe information never changes. The only thing that changes is the URL. And the only part that is a variable is this last part, which, by the way, if you look at my paste, so this is the image URL. Notice that this part here is exactly the same as this part here, which means in my Express site, what if for the game that I'm playing, it'll actually hard code all the iframe information that I need, and the only variable is what I get from the image URL, just the last bit. So I'll have to use some string manipulation there to get that. That was my idea. All right, so let's see here. Let us add game in mLab using their site for now. So go back to mLab. Click on your collection. Okay, so your collection is this. So you have all your collections. It's called games, I guess. And then click on your collection. And then click on this one right here, add document. Add document. And you're greeted with this screen here. So we're just going to add an entry. We're going to add in 4 things. We're going to add in the title, the publisher, the year, and the image URL. Okay, so I want you to manually pick a game, any game that you like. So this is, let me just show you the process. So if I want Pac-Man, for example, this is my process. I will right-click the image of Pac-Man, copy image address, and then just quickly memorize the title and the publisher. So Pac-Man, Namco. Go in here, title, Pac-Man, publisher, Namco, image URL, year 1983, I think it was. I'll leave that as a number. And then, actually, before I, question, yeah. Oh, zoom, yes. There we go. Notice I put everything in quotes, except for the last one. I could leave that as a number, that's fine. Actually, before I go ahead and save that, I'm gonna show you what happens. Very curious FYI that you need to know. So watch what happens if I take away the quotes for one of these fields. So I'll just use it for the first field. So notice my first field does not have quotes. If I try to create it or save it, it will give me an error message saying this, JSON validation error. This is what you need to know. All along, I've been saying JSON is basically, equivalent to a JavaScript object, so there's hardly any translation going on, but that's not quite true. JSON, in particular, it needs quotes for every single key field. It needs quotes. Whereas in JavaScript land, you don't need the quotes necessarily. Okay, so JSON is slightly different. Also, in JavaScript lands, you can attach functions in objects. In JSON, you cannot do that with pure data. That's good to know. So I created that, create and go back. So now you should see something that looks like this. Okay. Here's another FYI. If you want to view your data in a table format instead of this ugly format here, you can do so by clicking this table radio button. So if I click it, right now you see nothing because it says click here to define a table. So if I click here to define a table, here I can actually type in what I want. So I don't want to see the IDA. I just want to see the title and for example, this is just if you want to. You don't have to do this. This is just a I'm going to submit that. And there you go. So instead of seeing this view, I now can see it in this view, table view, which is nicer. Okay, that's just an FYI. Okay, so we've added a record. Everyone's with me so far? Yeah, okay. Oh, yes. Talked about that. Okay, so how does our Node app talk to MongoDB? Answer. Does anyone know before I choose the next slide? Does anyone know? So the reality is our Express app doesn't talk to MongoDB directly. The reality is we use an interface called Mongoose. So we npm install Mongoose. Mongoose is a nice wrapper on MongoDB's commands for us. So what is Mongoose? So here's a midterm question. It's an object document mapper, or ODM, that allows a Node application to interface with a MongoDB database. Mongoose is the Node equivalent of Entity Framework in your other classes when you're using .NET and SQL Server. You install Mongoose with npm. And Mongoose provides a straightforward schema-based solution to model your application data. So it includes built-in typecasting, it includes validation, includes query building, and business logic hooks. Okay. So just a moment ago, I said to you, MongoDB is schema-less. Here, I'm reading, whoa, Mongoose is schema-based. So the question you may be thinking is, wait a minute, we have a schema-less database, yet we're imposing on it a schema. Yes, the reality is you still want some kind of structure, and that's where this Mongoose schema comes in, but it's still flexible enough for you to add stuff as well, okay, if you wanted to. What is the purpose of Mongoose schema model? Map a specific collection in a Mongo database for a node application. It's to set out validation rules for a Mongo database collection. And it is to allow a model class to use the built-in Mongoose CRUD methods. So basically, we create the models ourselves, and these schemas live in the web application, in our Express app, and not the database. So basically, all that to say is, if you've ever worked with other relational databases, if you ever wanted to change something in those databases structurally, what do you have to do? You'd have to actually go into that database, create the structure. With this, all of these schemas live in our side. We don't have to go anywhere, kind of thing. So it lives in our web app, not the database. And I just forgot something to do before. Okay, npm, yes. So we're going to do this in a second, npm iMongoose. Let me just review this, because this is another midterm question I found. In a node application, where do we need to add a reference to Mongoose? App.js, in any models we create, in any controllers we create. Okay, so we are going to go through this in a second, but I just forgot something, and this is where I'm going to answer your question, Sean. I forgot, as I was creating our local Express app just now, to include the portfolio template, which is what I wanted to do. Okay, so again, for those who wanted to use the getmdl.io template that looks like this, that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now before we get into Mongoose. Okay, so if you want to use the template, now you'll know how to do it after I hopefully successfully implement it. Okay, so let me do that in a second. Any questions so far before I go back and? Okay, let's go into here. I want to use this portfolio template, so I'm going to download it first. If you want to follow along, that's cool. If you just want to watch, that's cool too. Node. If you're using another CSS framework, then you can ignore this. Oh, wait a minute. Download. Node. I wanted it in my lesson 5e. Can I put it in my temp folder? New temp. Okay, let us do this. Unzip that thing. Okay, so here's the portfolio. Essentially, I have it all here. So all the different pages as well as the CSS and all that. So I think I said this last time, if you wanted to use this, there's a couple things to do. First, we're going to replace our public style sheet style.css with theirs. We're going to copy and paste some of their images into our images folder. And we're essentially going to use their HTML for our EJS tables. So this is where Sean comes in, because Sean emailed me yesterday saying, how the heck do I use the NPM node way of installing CSS framework? So Sean, did you probably like click on this NPM and then you probably installed the NPM way and then you tried to follow the directions and then use this way and it didn't work out for you, right? Okay, it's a long convoluted answer, but the short answer is indeed it's simply just copy and pasting and replacing what you had. I think that's the best way for now. Okay, I think what you're thinking is, why can't I simply require it just like in my other code, just like I require other modules that I've npm installed? The answer is, but when it comes to CSS, that lives in the browser side. Like, there's a difference between the server stuff and the client side. And what you're asking is a miracle, and that can only be accomplished if you essentially replace our CSS in our public folder. Because if you do it their way, like let me show you their example for a second. It is possible to do it this way. So now I'm going off tangent, but let's try this. So cd users, cd availroos, cd node, make directory Sean, cd Sean, npm install, what is it called? Material design save. Oh, hold on. npm init -y. I got my package JSON. Then I can say npm install material design light. And I think that should work. If I now go into that folder, let me close my folder, close folder, Sean. I create a index.html page. Oh, comment didn't work. Then just basically use their stuff, and notice how all of their links have the /node modules already there. So node module is this, node module is that. This will work. So if I let's put in a component of some kind that has a styling, like a card. Yeah, give me that. Sure. Copy that. Okay, and paste. Okay, so it has all these different classes like MDL, which should come from our here. So let's just view it. Let's see if it works. This should work. Where did it go? Node on index. Oh, what the heck? Didn't work that time. I was expecting it to work. Okay. That's what you got too. Yeah. Yeah. No. Hold on. Failed. For these ones here. Okay. So then, for some reason, the node modules didn't like that. What if I took away? I'm curious. Now I'm on a different tangent. What if I just take away the slash? Would that work? Fresh. Oh, it got it. Okay, it did get the styling. I'm not sure why the picture isn't showing, but so it did work. It was just a slash there in that case. Okay, so it works. The answer is it works in their web page example because I was just using Node. Why it's difficult for you and for us is because we're using Express, which is built on top of Node. Express provides the structure, and if you remember, let's go back into our actual example for today, which is here's our structure. Remember in our app.js here, there was a line that said, if you're here, this line right here, line 20. This line says, if the web page is asking for any static file, which is like a CSS file or JS, then the root directory is public, which it knows about. Which means that this path of /node modules, where is that in relationship to public? Here's public, here's node. I can't go beyond public because of that line, because Express says so. Express draws a line at public. I can't go up from public in order to go to node modules. So that's a long, convoluted answer to your question. So that's why we basically have to cut and paste, and it replaces ours. Just an FYI, there are tools out there like Webpack, Parcel, and other module bundlers that kind of take care of that problem for you. But I think I'll leave that to you to investigate for your student project for this course, if you want to investigate that. Yeah, comments, feedback? Go ahead. I was looking into that. I was thinking that maybe NPM had an option to just quickly, and the answer is no. NPM will never do that. That's not their philosophy. Okay. Cool. So let's do this. I downloaded it. Yes, there it is, temp. I'm going to replace this styles and move it into my public style sheets. I think I'm going to use Windows Explorer for this because I don't want to use, I just feel more comfortable. So here it is. I put it in my public style sheets. There it is. I want to delete the original one. It's called style. I'll delete that, and I'll just rename this to be the original one, style. Let me go back to the images, and I'll just cut and paste the images. Actually, let me go back here. So in my temp, I have images. There are all my images. Let me highlight all of them. I highlight all of them and select all of them. Shift. Yes, good. And then I'll just move it to my images folder up here. Yes, all 29 move. Yes. Wonderful. Great. What does that get us? I don't know what that gets us. Let's see. Let's see. Node one. I think this is where I had left off last time. This should give us something. That's nothing. Okay. Let us go into our. Oh, what? Oh, I'm getting a port 3000 already used. Uh-oh. Are you running it somewhere else? No. Oh. Port 3000 is already in use. So I'll use my thing. Oh. CS kill 15496. Yes, kill 10912.